It's the first podcast just south of Indy, the All In Johnson County podcast, where we are all in for everything awesome about living, working, playing, and visiting Johnson County, Indiana. This is the place for all things Greenwood, Bargersville, Franklin, Whiteland, and all points in between. A proud member of the All Indiana Podcast Network, way to go. You found the All In Johnson County podcast. Now, here's your guide, Dr. Brad Miller.
Hey, good people. Welcome to the All In Johnson County podcast. This is the podcast where we look to lift up and celebrate all things good about the quality of life in Johnson County, Indiana. I'm Dr. Brad Miller. Here on episode number 2 of the podcast, we're going to celebrate one of the unique things that breaks down barriers between people from all walks of life. And that is laughter. And laughter with a cause. Or perhaps even comedy with a cause. Today we're going to have 2 very special guests here on All In Johnson County. We have Ryan May with us, who is organizing a special benefit comedy event, which is happening in downtown Franklin, Indiana, at the Art Craft Theater on March 21st, 7 o'clock p.m. It is Comedy for a Cause. And Ryan May is a local comedian who is organizing this event in coordination with the Central Indiana Police Foundation. And the proceeds from this event go to help the families of injured police officers. So the details about the event, I want to give those to you, is at the historic Art Craft Theater in downtown Franklin. You can get tickets at historicartcrafttheater.org. They're $25. It's Thursday, March 21st at 7 o'clock p.m. That's the details, so you have those right up front. But I want to tell you we have a great conversation with Ryan May about all things good about Johnson County, but particularly how something like a comedy event and the comedy community here in Johnson County is thriving, and how it can be a part of what you can be about here as well. So that is, Ryan does a great job. Love talking to him. And he also introduces us to the key comedian, the headlining comedian who's going to be as a part of this show. His name is Mike Armstrong. And Mike is an ex-cop. He's been featured on the Bob and Tom show. He's a touring comedian. He tours all around the country. And he has a great clean comedy show which has a real emphasis on marriage and family and life events and things like this. And he's a really skilled comedian. I was privileged to talk to Mike Armstrong as well. So the first half of our conversation is myself talking with Ryan May about the event itself, the Comedy for a Cause event on March 21st. And then the second half of this episode is a conversation with Mike Armstrong himself. So please make sure you listen to this entire episode of the All In Johnson County podcast. So our featured guest today here in All In Johnson County, Ryan May from the Comedy for a Cause event, March 21st, and the headlining comedian, Mike Armstrong. We'll hear from these 2 great guests when we come back. Here's a question for you. How much time do you spend listening to or watching podcasts? Probably more than you want to admit, so you know the influence of podcasting. What if you could be the one behind the mic or in front of the camera to bring your unique message to the world? I know you've thought about it, but the thought of where to begin is overwhelming. I'm Dr. Brad Miller for 40-Day Way Podcasting Services. I've published over 1,000 episodes for over a decade and won awards for podcasting. I know podcasting, and I know I can get your voice and video recorded in a few hours and your new podcast published to the world in 40 days. If you're in business or an event planner, you know podcasting is powerful and getting stronger. How cool would it be to share your message right here in this very spot, targeted, and this is important, to the people who live, work, and play in and around Johnson County, Indiana. You're at least intrigued about the whole idea, aren't you? The good news is this. 40-Day Way Podcasting Services is here to get you started on creating your own podcast or leveraging the power of podcasting for your business or event. Right now, I'm offering a free 30-minute podcasting consult to the first 10 people who reach out to me, Dr. Brad Miller. Just email me at brad@drbradmiller.com. Call me at 317-300-4615 or leave a message on the allinjohnsoncounty.com website. That email again is brad@drbradmiller.com. Let's talk about getting your message heard. And we got a great guest with us today because there's a very special event going on here in Johnson County and downtown Franklin on March 21st. It's a comedy show that's for a good cause. So our guest today is Ryan May, who's putting this show together. And we're glad to have you with us, Ryan. Ryan, welcome to All In Johnson County.
Well, thank you very much, Brad.
It's great to have you with us here on our show, Ryan. Tell me, man, you're putting together this comedy show, which must mean you've got a little bit of a humor streak in you. What's something that's kind of made you smile or made you giggle here recently?
Oh, goodness. You know, my wife recently sent me a TikTok of somebody took a video clip of some people curling, the Canadian ski ball
ice
yes
thing. Yeah.
But they superimposed capybaras on top of it.
What? Capybaras?
Capybaras, yeah. They're like giant.
What that is?
They're like giant adorable rats from South America.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
For some reason,
yes.
I thought candy bar or something like that.
No.
When you said
Cadbury berries.
So that must have been weird, wild and weird looking.
It was. But yeah, it's, stuff like that amuses me. So.
Well, what got you interested in, you've done a little comedy yourself. What got you interested in getting involved with stand-up comedy and getting a little more involved with creating events?
Well, as far as getting to the comedy thing, comedy has always been something I've loved. Even as a kid, I would always ask for some sort of comedy record, for Christmas every year, and would just burn up those records.
Yeah.
I like trying to make people laugh.
What was one of your favorite comedy records when you were growing up then?
Now, fortunately, today, stand-up comedy-wise, I had a best of Bill Cosby.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you don't know what you know.
Yeah. But he was the king. Well, for many years,
America's dad, right?
He was for many, many years. Only in recent years when he's, gone off. When we've heard about some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, which is pretty sordid. Yeah.
Yeah. But the best stuff had the two Noah bits.
Yeah.
About Noah and his neighbor and God telling Noah to build an ark and all that, and really funny stuff. And then he just turned out to be the worst person. But
yeah, it takes people have all different sides, don't they?
Yeah.
And one of the things that you're doing something good for our community, and you must really have a real affinity for our community here in Johnson County. Tell me a little bit about how long you've been a part of living here in Johnson County, and what are you involved with here?
So I've lived in Johnson County since 2001. My wife and I moved here down to the south side so we could be closer to her job. She's a teacher at Center Grove High School, and so we bought a house in Bargersville, which at the time everybody referred to as Bargertucky.
Okay.
And then, I don't know if you've been to Bargersville lately, but
booming.
It is not Bargertucky anymore, that's for sure. Yeah. We have more Mexican restaurants than we do libraries, so. That's a good point. As far as the event goes, I had an opportunity to do a fundraiser with the Art Craft Theater back in September, and trying to find a organization to partner up with led me to the Central Indian Police Foundation, and the person that runs that is Lisa Rawlings. And so we teamed up and put a show together in March, and it went good enough to where they wanted to do it again. And so we're doing it again. And this time we have the very funny, very talented, very famous Mike Armstrong is going to be our headliner.
Awesome.
So,
and he has some renown connected to the Bob and Tom radio show.
yes, he is what I like to call Bob and Tom famous.
Right.
He is, I think he was considered to be their favorite comedian.
Right.
So, and I've seen him before. If you have not seen him, you need to come because he is hilarious and he is clean.
Okay.
And he is absolutely going to kill my future new best friend, Mike Armstrong.
There you go. Now, is he, give us a few other details. Give us you mentioned the archive. Give us the date, the place, the time, the price, all that kind of good stuff.
It's at the Historic Art Craft Theater. And hang on here, a little parched here. Allergies are killing me. It's at the Historic Art Craft Theater in downtown Franklin on March 21st. Shows at 7 p.m. The doors open at 6. And you want to get there early because there's going to be some 50-50 raffles going on. Or one 50-50 raffle. And I think there's going to be some other fundraisers as well. I think Lisa's been raising some donations and things like that. So, so we're going to have that going on. Show will start at 7. I'll be hosting the evening, do a little set, bring out our feature, who is Ray Hensley, a comic from Johnson County, turned out to be my neighbor's son of all things.
Okay.
And then Mike Armstrong will close the show. And then we're going to do, acknowledge all our sponsors. And this is going to raise money for the Central Indiana Police Foundation, which helps provide funds to the families of injured and fallen police officers.
Well, that's an awesome cause. And it sounds like you got connected up with some good folks there to pull this thing off.
Yeah, Lisa's been fantastic to work with.
Yeah. And so that is an awesome cause. And you bet you have a little bit of a background in service yourself in the military, and you have some connections with law enforcement. So how does that come together for you and able to do something that's kind of helping this community, the law enforcement community?
Like you said, I am a veteran and served in the Army from 92 through 96. And, I know how stressful and just draining being in the military can be. And, our first responders, our police officers, firefighters, they're kind of in the same boat. And, it's got to be very hard for them to, flip off, not always be on.
Sure.
And, I've had a lot of respect for our law enforcement, and I know the job is not an easy one to do, especially under the scrutiny that they've been under the last couple of years. So, I just, feel it's necessary to do everything we can to help them out.
And do you know the money raised for this goes to their foundation? Do you have any idea what type of services that provides for
I think
the law enforcement community?
From what I understand, they help provide funds to families of fallen and injured police officers.
Oh, really?
I think that's
awesome.
The main thing. Now, I can get a hold of Lisa Rawlings and get a better feel for that, but that's my understanding. There might be more that they do. And in fact, I'm sure they probably have other things that they do other than give out money. But
sure. It seems like that you've really leaned into the arts a little bit, haven't you, Ryan, in terms of something that you like to be a part of? I know you're a part of an organization that veterans that's involved with the arts.
It's called the Armed Services Arts Partnership. And as an organization that's got about 5 chapters in the United States. I think it's Southampton's, Washington, D.C., San Diego, Indianapolis, and I forget the 5th one, but what they do is they provide classes with various art mediums to help veterans, family members of veterans, extended family members of veterans, coping skills and just help them just learn to deal with things through the arts. I've taken.
So you're talking about music or comedy? I know you did drama, these type of things.
Well, their classes are starting out right now here in a couple weeks, and they're offering stand-up, introduction to acting, improv. I believe there's going to be an acrylics paint class. Okay. Storytelling is going to be one. I think that's the 5 in there.
Wow.
We had a meeting because I'm going to be one of the assistant instructors for the stand-up class, but they're looking to find other classes to offer, but it comes down to, do we have somebody in town that can teach it? How affordable is it, to where we can do it and have a decent sized class, like I mentioned glass blowing, which would be very cool to learn, but it's very expensive, and theoretically you would not be able to. And also because there's not a lot of glass blowing kilns out there that is designed for, 12 to 20 people.
Right.
So it's not as feasible.
Sure.
So,
But still, there's some cool opportunities being made available to people who have this interest in this need. And I know that's
and it's free.
You're towards veterans.
Yes. You have to fill out an application. They do some vetting just to see, if you fall under the criteria they're looking for. I took the stand-up class in fall of 22. I had kind of had a pretty bad year. I had a lot of things going on in my life that was really weighing me down. And I was actually on the verge of quitting comedy altogether because I just didn't enjoy it anymore. Okay. And I didn't feel like laughing. And I was like, one of the things I've always wanted to do was a comedy show with other veterans. And I saw the class, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it. I'm going to, go in there with a sense of learning, even though I've done stand-up before, but wasn't a great stand-up. I wasn't bad, but I wasn't good. So I'm like, maybe this will help me get over the hump. And, the instructors we had were great. And I learned that, I am funny. And sometimes it's just a matter of rewriting things. Sometimes it's a matter of getting rid of things that you don't.
Sure.
That you love,
well,
but
you also mentioned something there, Ryan, I think is important, and that is you talked about kind of that line, if you will, between laughter and the tears.
Yeah.
How they're really pretty close. And there's even studies that show some of the physiological release you get from laughter and crying are similar in effects. That kind of the difference is when you laugh, you're kind of sharing things with others. When we cry, it's a little bit more of an internal thing. We cry or we have depression, it's kind of like a little bit withdrawn in sometimes. And laughter is many times a shared experience.
Yes, it is. And as a comedian, I've always had the saying of, comedians are the physicians of the soul.
Love that.
And the example I like to use is 2001. A couple weeks after 9/11 happened, Saturday Night Live came on.
Right.
First time. And they did a very serious, I think Paul Simon was singing Bridge Over Troubled Water, and Rudy Giuliani was there and said, hey, New York's open for business. It's time to be funny again. Or no, Lorne Michaels said, does that mean we can be funny? And he said, well, why start now?
Right. I remember that so clearly.
But that was kind of like
broke the ice, didn't it?
Yeah, it is, being able to laugh, at something is a first step to healing in my opinion.
And, part of my experience, I'm a retired pastor, Ryan, as I think some of the biggest times of joy and laughter I've ever seen are at people's funerals or at the funeral dinner after, this type of place where people are telling great stories. Yes. About the one they've loved. They shed some tears too because they miss them and things like that. But they share the family stories and that type of thing. And it seems to me that you've got some stories. All great comedians I know have great stories to tell about their observations or about things of that nature. And tell me a time when you really got a charge out of something you either said or did, either in a show or some other times, when that you hit a nerve with people that you really just did something good for people.
Oh man. That's a tough one. I'll give you a more personal one, and this isn't a large group thing.
Yeah.
But this was, I talked about 2022. My stepfather was deteriorating through Alzheimer's and dementia, and my mom was having to watch the whole thing. And my younger brother and I took my mom out. She'd been visiting him all day, and I said, hey, let's go get something to eat. So we drove to Subway, and we're leaving. We get in the car. She sets her cup in the cup holder, and I kind of roll down my windows, and we're driving. I said, hey, are you doing that cup? And she goes, yeah, why? And I just reached over, snatched it, and I just chucked it out the window, and hit somebody's car. And
oh my gosh,
it was so abrupt. I mean, I lit her technically, but it was so abrupt. My mom just started laughing so hard, and I looked back, and my brother just got a smirk on his face and just chuckling. And, it's just, There's a small moment, but
Yeah, that's kind of what you're looking forward to happen on March 21st, and then give people a little bit of relief from
absolutely
whatever stress they're going through, whatever. Hey, people are going through all kinds of stuff, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Whether it's in their home life or their job or something out in the world, you know, money or something else going on.
Yeah.
They're having stress in their life. And if we can do something to help to give them some quality of life, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But this podcast we're working on here, Ryan, is about all in Johnson County, but all the good things about Johnson County. You mentioned you've lived here for quite a while, you know, and what do you think are just some of the good things that make Johnson County a desirable place to live? You've been here for quite a while now.
Yeah,
You've stayed here.
You know, it's developing. And especially in Bargersville, my neck of the woods. You know, there's all kinds of stuff going in there, and it's booming as far as families. And so that tells you it's a great place to be. You look at all the houses that are going up, all the communities. People want to be here. There's a lot of great school systems, Center Grove, Franklin High School, Whiteland High School across the street here. They're all great schools. And, they're not as bougie as, like, say, our northern community friends, we still can have some farm equipment. So
our Hamilton County friends, are you talking about that kind of thing, maybe?
Yeah, Hamilton County, yeah. Yeah, that's a roundabout way to say it.
I guess I'm a little more direct. Well, and so there's some, as you mentioned, the schools and the development and some great things there and there's opportunities here. Don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially with I-69 being developed, I can see a lot of potential for just businesses opening up along that corridor. And whether they do that or not, I don't know. I'm not a businessman, but I can just see.
Well, I think it's almost inevitable that that'll happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's inevitable. Expansion's just coming our way. And,
What do you think about you're getting more involved with the arts. What do you think about, comedy shows? I sponsored a comedy show last year. You've done a couple of comedy shows, music and other things in the arts.
Yeah.
What do you see in that field here in Johnson County? I know it's not as robust as, say, maybe, downtown Indianapolis or, like a Broad Ripple area or whatever. But what do you see in that area?
Well, I mean, I see a lot of opportunities for that. I mean, really, for a comedy show, you just need a microphone and a space. My friends Jan Tatlock and Dave Cross, they run an open mic and do shows out of the Pixie Theater and down in Edinburgh, which is in Johnson County.
Right.
They run a open mic on Saturdays at 1 in the afternoon. Nobody's doing that, which is a great opportunity.
That is awesome. I had no idea about that.
I forget the name of the place. That's in downtown Greenwood. And then a few doors down on Tuesdays at the Planetary Brewing, they have an open mic. Okay. And when you do stuff like that, you give our comedy community a space, they're going to promote you. And we have a great comedy community here in Indianapolis. A lot of people are just, putting the effort in, and I'm just in awe of all the talent that we have. And so, when you're giving space to this talent, they're going to promote you, but you can also bring in customers, to your business,
sure,
especially if you're doing shows.
Right.
Now, open mics are great, but it's practice.
Sure.
And
occasionally bring in a headliner like you're doing for our March 21st.
Correct.
That's a great thing. Let's turn it around this way one more time. If you were going to share something either with a relative or a friend or someone who maybe lived out of state and maybe they're retiring or looking for a new job or something like that, what would you think would be some of the reasons why they might want to come to Johnson County and maybe see this as a potential place to land?
Well, I think for one, I think if you look at the housing market, I'm not a realtor, but from what I'm seeing, the house that you can get, I know the housing market's just absolutely jacked up right now, but I feel like the house you get for a certain price is reasonable here, especially if you compare it to other places around America, around our great country. There's all kinds of job opportunities. If you're a retiree, there's all kinds of opportunities for workers, just in our educational system. We need cafeteria workers. We need assistants for our teachers who are underpaid and overworked. So
Substitute teachers too. I know
Yeah,
that.
substitute teachers as well. I guess community service, and
Yeah.
there's all kinds of small businesses opening up.
Lots of good opportunities.
Lots of great opportunities.
Well, let's bring you back around one more time here to what you're focusing in on here. The show that you're sponsoring. Tell us again the name of the show that we're doing here.
It's just called Comedy for a Cause. Just nothing groundbreaking. A lot of comedians use that, but it's a really great title because it tells you what the show is, and what the show is about.
Right.
So
Tell us again what the cause is.
the Central Indiana Police Foundation. So basically, it helps all the injured and fallen police. Sorry. It helps families of fallen and injured police officers in Central Indiana.
Sure. And tell us the date and the time.
March 21st at the Historic Art Craft Theater, my favorite theater in the entire state of Indiana.
It's an awesome place.
It's an amazing place. If you've never seen a Christmas movie at the Art Craft Theater, do yourself a favor and go. Now, you may have to buy a membership to get those tickets because they are about as hard to get as Taylor Swift tickets sometimes, depending on the movie. But it is well worth it. It's just such a fun place to go to.
And the time of the show is?
7 p.m. Doors open at 6 to help collect money for the 50/50 raffle.
And tell us where can people go to get tickets and how much are they?
You can go to the historicartcrafttheater.org. The events should be listed, and you can just buy tickets there. They're $25, which, again, reminder, our headliner is Mike Armstrong, the famous Mike Armstrong, my soon-to-be new best friend.
Awesome. Well, any good words you want to share before we say goodbye here today, Ryan, to our good folks here on the All In Johnson County program?
You know what? Just be kind and just be Johnson County.
What a great message from Ryan May from Comedy for a Cause. Just be kind and just be Johnson County. Now, don't go away, because coming right up, we have the headline comedian of the Comedy for a Cause event. His name is Mike Armstrong, and he's going to crack you up. We'll get back to Mike Armstrong right after this message. Here's a question for you. How much time do you spend listening to or watching podcasts? Probably more than you want to admit. So you know the influence of podcasting. What if you could be the one behind the mic or in front of the camera to bring your unique message to the world? I know you've thought about it, but the thought of where to begin is overwhelming. I'm Dr. Brad Miller for 40-Day Way Podcasting Services. I've published over 1,000 episodes for over a decade and won awards for podcasting. I know podcasting, and I know I can get your voice and video recorded in a few hours and your new podcast published to the world in 40 days. If you're in business or an event planner, you know podcasting is powerful and getting stronger. How cool would it be to share your message right here in this very spot, targeted, and this is important, to the people who live, work, and play in and around Johnson County, Indiana. You're at least intrigued about the whole idea, aren't you? The good news is this. 40-Day Way Podcasting Services is here to get you started on creating your own podcast or leveraging the power of podcasting for your business or event. Right now, I'm offering a free 30-minute podcasting consult to the first 10 people who reach out to me, Dr. Brad Miller. Just email me at brad@drbradmiller.com. Call me at 317-300-4615 or leave a message on the allinjohnsoncounty.com website. That email again is brad@drbradmiller.com. Let's talk about getting your message heard. Mike Armstrong. Mike, welcome to our conversation here today.
How you doing, brother?
Oh, man, we're rocking it. As we've been discussing, we've been rocking gigantic thunderstorms here in Johnson County and knocked our power off and some good things like that. But we are ready to get powered up when you come to town and for the Comedy for a Cause event on March 21st. So, Mike, tell us a little bit what the good folks here in Johnson County can expect when you come rolling into town.
Well, most people know me as the ex-cop on the Bob and Tom show, and I'm on there all the time. I've been on HBO Comedy Central and whatever, but I'm getting ready to do another Comedy Central, so you better get me while I'm cheap.
Well,
I,
yeah, that's the deal, man. Get you while you're cheap, and but also, hey, it's only $25 for tickets for this event, so that's not bad.
but
So
that's pretty good.
one of these days, you're going to be headlining in Vegas or something. All those big,
Well, I do that all the time anyway.
yeah, good, good, good. So you're the cop, and a
I'm
lot
in
of
a
people.
casino right now.
There you go. There you go. Well, you're a lot of folks in these parts are familiar with the Bob and Tom show, and in fact, I know they're around the nation, but they're kind of based here locally in the Indianapolis area, and they know them well and know that your voice pops up on a pretty regular basis there. How did you get connected with those guys, and then how did that kind of change you from whatever you're doing as an actual cop to now a comedian, a on the road comedian?
Well, you know what? I was on the Bob and Tom show, and I was still on the police department, and I just didn't want anybody to know that I was a cop, and I was just doing comedy and on my off times, and shot a guy's finger off,
Oh my goodness! Wow.
and I opened up a closet door, and he was there, and he had a gun pointing at me, and I just shot and, and shot his trigger finger off and landed in my pocket. So
For real? Oh my
people were
gosh! Wow. Oh,
people were emailing Bob and Tom going to ask him about one. They went, "You shot a guy's finger off?" I go, "Well, I'm a cop, you know."
wow.
And,
Wow.
and then all of a sudden, I started telling police stories, and then I became the ex-cop on the Bob and Tom show, which is a godsend,
Yeah,
you know.
that kind of became your I don't know, your name, claim to fame, I guess it were your
Yeah,
uh,
when I built a new house, I put a brick in the house. It said the house that Bob and Tom built.
and a part of that was kind of based on your brand, I guess, so to speak, of being
Yeah,
the cop on the Bob and Tom show. So, well,
well,
what's so
I'm
what,
a PG act, and I don't talk about sex, and I don't do politics, and
right?
I talk about, well, I talk a lot about my ex-wife and my new wife. I've been married this time for like 8 years, and we've never had an argument.
Mm,
She's an ex-cop,
okay.
so
Well,
and we got a bunch of kids, and they're all good, and I talk about them, and it's a fun show. It's not a reality show, you
sure.
know. I, I don't.
So I read somewhere you want to have a
People
show.
come to comedy.
I'm sorry, I
Go
saw
ahead.
something where you wanted to have a show where you felt like your grandmother could come to the show, something like that. I read about you, and so people come to the show. They're going to have a lot of fun, but it's going to be, like you say, PG. It's going to be okay in terms of the content. Is that fair?
Yes, you know, and I say some pretty weird stuff sometimes, but everybody laughs because they know I'm joking. You know,
Yeah, right.
you know, I'm, you know, you know, like, you know, I got one joke. I got a friend that stutters really bad, but he became an auctioneer. It's just one of those throwaway. You know,
Okay, I got you. I got you. Well, there you go, man. So a few puns and one-liners, and I guess I'm kind of
that's all I do most.
in my world among my family, and even on the one of my other podcasts do. I'm kind of known for bad dad jokes, and that kind of thing. I
Yeah.
I used to have the hokey pokey, but I managed to turn myself around and stupid stuff like that. So yeah, there you go. You can use that one. Put that in your show.
No, you know what? I got to write my own stuff.
There you go. Well, you can pay me
If,
later.
if,
So there you go. Okay. Well, well, good, man. Well, hey, this show is for a good cause. In fact, you said you're an ex-cop, and you kind of have your brand, so to speak, as being the ex-cop of comedy or the
yeah.
Bob and Tom show. And this particular event that we're talking about here in Johnson County, Indiana, is all about supporting of police and their families. It's called Comedy for a Cause, and the beneficiary is the Central Indiana Police Foundation. Can you say a word about how and well, if and how that's important to you that this event supports this particular cause?
Well, I try to explain to people, if a cop gets hurt or a fireman or whoever, the bills don't stop coming in. You can go, oh, I'm so sorry about that. Oh gosh, I pray for him, and that's all good, but the bills keep coming,
Absolutely.
and that's why I do a lot for tunnels to towers, because I got two sons that are Army Rangers,
Okay.
you know, and if something happens to them, Tunnels to Towers is going to come in and help them, you know, and it's just like with police, they help police all the time, and firemen or whatever, and you just got to help them out because it's a dangerous job. I mean, and the way the world is right now, it's just like I couldn't do it. I mean, I don't have the temperament for it to start out with, to have somebody come up and spit on me or something and, let them walk away.
Right, right, right. Well, and unfortunately, there's a lot of that type of behavior that goes on. And so this is a benefit that helps people find themselves in those unfortunate circumstances of having the need of something like the Central Indiana Police Foundation. And
Well,
so
even with the
this is going to
mental
help out.
thing, yeah, I mean, a lot of times you just, they need mental help,
Sure.
because it's a stressful job. I mean, every day you walk out that door, everyone hates you.
Hmm.
I mean, how many people have that job, you know, where that everyone hates you and you might not come home that night,
Yeah.
So it's a mental thing too, and I say take care of them as much as you can, I've been there, done that, and
Well,
I know
apparently,
what it
what I'm picking up, Mike, is that a little bit of your humor kind of started a little bit on that, a little bit of that dark side, if you will, among the other police officers, kind of having just kind of some fun back and forth to try to relieve the stress. Was any of
Oh
that
yeah.
a part of what went on with you? How you kind of got started in all this?
Yeah, I kind of like I always tell jokes about, and it's true. I would go up on the expressway. I probably shouldn't even been there.
Hmm.
And people that made, those signs that says authorized vehicles only, and people still
Oh
make
yeah.
U-turns. I'd pull up behind them, put on my blue lights, and then I'd go over my microphone and go, "I authorize you." Then,
Oh God.
yeah,
How
I do
how
stuff like that constantly.
how did that go over? I tell me about one at least one of those people who you did that you had to scare them to death, but
Oh
the
yeah,
blue lights come up behind you. You go, oh, if you're on the other end of, your heart goes to your throat and all that stuff. And
yeah.
but how did tell me one story about how a person reacted when you pulled that stunt on him.
Well, like I would pull people over and go, "Do you know how fast I was going to pull you over?" And one guy threw up,
Oh
and I
my
said,
gosh.
"D- I go, don't worry about it, dude." I said, "I wasn't going to write you a ticket, man. Just calm down."
Golly.
Then sometimes if I pulled them over and they were going real fast and being obnoxious, I pay your salary and all that crap. I go, "Can I see your keys?" And they'd hand them to me, and I'd throw them up in the bushes. I'd get back in my car and leave. You know,
Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Oh my gosh.
I used to do stuff like that all the time. You know,
Wow, did I
save
that's
myself aggravation.
oh my goodness. You ever get in trouble with the higher ups or whatever for that type of
Oh yeah, I always say
oh
I
my
plan my vacations around my suspensions.
oh my gosh. Well, Mike, humor is a great thing to not break tension, but there's a little bit of do you believe that humor can kind of be a force for healing and for bringing people together? Do you believe that?
Oh yeah, because
Good.
when I'm done, usually everybody knows cops are human.
Mm,
You know,
okay.
because most cops, they do their job, but they got a great sense of humor, and
Sure.
it's dark.
Yeah. To, just to get through it, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't really want to make your life miserable. So, it's kind of weird. Me and my wife watch live PD, and we laugh because people get themselves locked up. They won't shut up, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just, and the cops
So
trying to
they're in
walk away, and
the situation where the cop might want to kind of just say, just get me, get in and out, and they may just run the mouth or whatever and end up getting
yeah,
locked up or something like that happens. Yeah.
yeah, they
Oh
think
my,
they own you. They're like,
wow.
"I'm on my property. I could say or do whatever I want to. I'm blah, 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 blah,"
Right.
and You just you go in the house, go in the house, go in the house, and then when you put the cuffs on, they go, I'll go in the house. Well, it's too late.
Yeah.
Once the cuffs come on,
Yeah.
they don't
Well,
come off till you get to the jail.
yeah, you got to do whatever the next steps are. Yeah. Well, I believe it's something that you're probably familiar with the term, but therapeutic humor is something I study and apply in my life a lot. In fact, I have a whole other podcast about therapeutic humor. But that has to do basically how humor is a part of the healing process and unification process. So tell me a story, if you will, about how you've seen someone who's in a bad situation, either in the law or maybe health or something else like that, where somehow humor, either yours or someone else's, has helped them to, help them to have a different perspective or get a little better in life.
Well, like kids are afraid of police.
Hmm.
And I always made sure that, you know, let them know that the police were there to help,
Okay.
you know. I tell a story where I used to do this all the time. It might sound gross, but the kids always, I've had kids come up to me and go, you remember that time, because I would do stuff like if I caught them, kids are kids,
Yeah.
and I'd catch them going 45 or 50 over, you know,
Yeah.
just showing off. And I'd go, if I wrote you a ticket, your insurance, you'd probably lose it,
Hmm.
and your parents would really be up in you. And I don't want to see you ruin your life, but I can't let you go. You have to learn a lesson. So I'd look at him and go, pee in your pants, and then you can leave.
Oh my gosh.
And they do it.
Oh wow, man! That's the kind of thing you ought to see on some of these, police live TV shows. Oh my
And
gosh!
they do it, and they go, and I'd see them later on in life, and they go, you taught me a lesson, you know, and without being, costing me everything.
So, in a way, even though you coerced these guys, I'll say guys because I'm sure it's mostly guys who did this to pee in their pants, and you see them later, and they're basically thankful for what that got to be a humiliating situation was all about.
Yeah.
But they were thankful for it. They had a
Yes.
they had like an aha moment or something, right? And
Yeah.
they
And or I'd make them do push-ups. I'd go, give me 20 push-ups, and you're out of here.
wow,
No cheating. And they'd be on the side of the road doing
they could
push-ups.
get out and knock out them push-ups. Now that you see, I'd be way out of luck if some cops stopped me to do push-ups. I'd go down one, and that would be it. I'd be a goner after going down one time.
Well, I mostly worked in the projects,
Okay,
and even when I arrested people, they thanked me for being so nice.
yeah,
Because I go, I don't have to be ugly unless you are. I'd even stop by the money machine and let them get money so they could make bond, you know.
sure.
It ain't gonna hurt nothing,
Well, but what you're telling me here, Mike, is if they're saying that to you, unfortunately, they might have had other experiences that weren't that way with other police
Yeah,
officers or at school or whatever, where people weren't
yeah.
nice to them. So,
I tried to be as nice to them as they were to me. And I'd go, even if I wrote somebody a ticket, I'd make jokes about it, make them laugh. I'd go, you might want to mail that ticket off real quick because it's probably ready to fall apart because I never write tickets. And that phone number at the bottom's probably changed 3 times, so don't call it. I'd make jokes like that, and they'd be laughing. And
well, that lightens the mood of what is really a pretty heavy situation. To get stopped by a cop is pretty heavy, almost no matter what you do. But you've tried
yeah,
to take the edge off a little bit. And I find it to be
yeah,
the case with, let's say, the medical situation, doctors who are I deal with cancer patients all the time. I'm a cancer patient myself. And doctors who have
God bless you.
who have a little bit of a sense of humor about dealing with heavy stuff, it just helps. It just helps.
Yes.
Don't you
And
think?
yeah, you gotta make, no, I don't want to say jokes, but humor about whatever bad's going on,
Yeah.
and I think if you're calm, it calms them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just like my neighbor cut his leg open with a chainsaw.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And I ran over and I put a towel on it and I looked at it and it was bad, but I went, man, I've cut myself worse than this shaving. Don't you know?
Oh boy. I'm not.
And he laughed and it
he
just
laughed
calmed
in the
everything
moment? Yeah.
down.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Well, you're quite a guy, Mike. People are gonna enjoy your show, and you're actually a part of a pretty big show. There's none of yourself. There's an opening act, and we've got the folks going to be talking a little bit about the cause itself. Ryan May, who's in charge of this event, so we talk
He's
about
a
the
really
cause.
nice guy too.
He's a good guy, and as we've been talking to him here on our podcast episode, and what Ryan is looking to do, and what everybody here in Johnson County, Indiana, is trying to do, is to do things to kind of help improve the quality of life. And
Right.
when you bring out a comedy show that helps serve a good cause, it helps to kind of raise the bar for everybody. And so, what would be your word of encouragement to folks who may be thinking about coming out to see the Comedy for a Cause event on March 21st? What would you
I,
share with them?
I say it's worth. You're going to have a good time for a good cause, and it's just going to be a good time. Everybody who walks away is happy,
Yeah, good,
and
good, good.
and be happy for a while. You know, let let all these problems in the world go away for a couple hours. You know, because the world, you know. I always say 99% of all people are good. The 1% are the loudest, and
Sure.
they're the ones that cause all the trouble.
They
You
they
know?
get unfortunately get the attention and can make problems for the rest of us.
Yeah.
Well, this particular show is Thursday, March 21st, 2024, 7:00 p.m. Eastern Time at the Artcraft Theater in downtown Franklin, Indiana. That's
I love Franklin too.
right on Main Street, right near the courthouse. So we look forward to people joining us. But Mike, you really are a full-time traveling comedian on
Oh yeah.
on the comedy circuit. So tell people how, if they want to catch up with you someplace else, tell us about how they can find out about your schedule and about all the things you're about, and upcoming appearances, things you got going on.
That comedian MikeArmstrong.net's the best place to go. I don't, my wife's always on me. She goes, "You don't ever tell anybody what you're." I go, I feel like I'm bragging or something. I'm getting ready to do another Comedy Central, and she goes, "You haven't even told anybody you're doing Comedy Central." I go, "Well, I feel funny about it. I don't know. Just one of those
Well,
weird things." I was on HBO, Comedy Central, and CMT the same night, and I never told anybody, and it just
well,
horrified me to see me.
you were scared by what you saw, huh? Oh my goodness.
You know
Well,
what? I sound like a hillbilly whenever I'm listening to myself.
there's
'Cause I'm from Kentucky.
there's nothing wrong with that, man. That's who you are and where you're from, and we've had a lot of fun with you here today, here on the allinjohnsoncounty.com podcast, and we just look forward to having you here, man. Here in
You're a good man.
on March 21st. 7:00 p.m. at the Artcraft downtown, and $25 are the tickets. We'll put the links to the Facebook page about how you can get tickets here at our website, allinjohnsoncounty.com. Mike, pleasure to get to meet you and get to know you. We look forward to having you here soon, and we look forward to, again, the event, Comedy for a Cause, March 21st. The headlining comedian, Mike Armstrong. Mike, thanks for being with us here today.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Man, I got a kick out of spending some time with Mike Armstrong. I'm sure that you did too. I'll be back to wrap up and put a bow on this episode of All in Johnson County after this message. Here's a question for you. How much time do you spend listening to or watching podcasts? Probably more than you want to admit, so you know the influence of podcasting. What if you could be the one behind the mic or in front of the camera to bring your unique message to the world? I know you've thought about it, but the thought of where to begin is overwhelming. I'm Dr. Brad Miller for 40-Day Way Podcasting Services. I've published over 1,000 episodes for over a decade and won awards for podcasting. I know podcasting, and I know I can get your voice and video recorded in a few hours and your new podcast published to the world in 40 days. If you're in business or an event planner, you know podcasting is powerful and getting stronger. How cool would it be to share your message right here in this very spot, targeted, and this is important, to the people who live, work, and play in and around Johnson County, Indiana? You're at least intrigued about the whole idea, aren't you? The good news is this. 40-Day Way Podcasting Services is here to get you started on creating your own podcast or leveraging the power of podcasting for your business or event. Right now, I'm offering a free 30-minute podcasting consult to the first 10 people who reach out to me, Dr. Brad Miller. Just email me at brad@drbradmiller.com. Call me at 317-300-4615 or leave a message on the allinjohnsoncounty.com website. That email again is brad@drbradmiller.com. Let's talk about getting your message heard. So that'll do for this episode of All In Johnson County with Dr. Brad Miller. Many, many, many thanks to Ryan May from Comedy for a Cause and to our headliner comedian, Mike Armstrong, for being our guest here on episode 2 of All In Johnson County. Just one more reminder, you can get tickets for this event March 21 at the historicartcrafttheater.org. I'll be there. I hope to see you there as well. And I hope to see you here next time on the All In Johnson County podcast. We want you to know that you can connect up with us. You can connect up with me personally by emailing me at brad@drbradmiller.com. You can leave me a phone message at 317-300-4615. And we'd love to hear from you to get your reaction and your input here on the All In Johnson County podcast. If you would be so kind, it would be ever so helpful if you would subscribe to the All In Johnson County podcast on Apple Podcast and on YouTube. The easiest way to do that is to go to allinjohnsoncounty.com/follow. Next time on the All In Johnson County podcast, you're going to want to tune in as we have Joe and Heather Bodarf from Doc Real Estate to talk about all things housing and real estate in Johnson County. Until next time, it has been my pleasure and privilege to be your guide. I am Dr. Brad Miller, and we'll see you down the road. All In Johnson County, Indiana.
Now that you've been all in Johnson County, of course you want to share this goodness with others. So be a good neighbor and ask them to join you on the next episode of the All In Johnson County podcast over at allinjohnsoncounty.com/follow. This is your announcer, Alan Haw, Wish TV's events manager and a resident of Franklin, Indiana. All In Johnson County is a proud member of Wish TV's All Indiana podcast network. We'll see you next time, All In Johnson County.